Strange Magic, episode 3. Don't know what happened to episode 1. And don't know if there'll be a 4. And perhaps there should be a masculine natural chapter of Unicult someday, but this is the matriarchal feminine chapters zine. We have a picture that some are going to say is pretentious, but let's look at what it might mean. A person is outside the realm of protection. They've been impacted by the dangers, but they've escaped them. And I'm hoping that Kayla Jai doesn't mean this pro-segregation thing that we're seeing nowadays, or this idea that if somebody's a female or a non-white, that they just don't have the opportunity. Certainly when you interact with society, you're going to interact with all types. So essentially everybody's heard, and some of the lack of privilege, you could say, is more of what's been programmed upon us. The top-down stuff that we're talking about, that we've been told about, they're trying to get us to fight against one another. Really, that's what it is. And why shouldn't we give a position to people who accomplish more, who don't mess up in certain ways? Let's acknowledge what we do with our choices. Cedar Moonshine kind of attacks that idea that whites are inherently supreme. Now, we don't need to destroy the purity or the supremacy of another. We just need to allow fair opportunity, you could say. My ancestors, a lot of slaves in my ancestry, because I mean, it's even more common in white ancestry to have slavery than Negroid ancestry. Now, people who are mostly white Negroids don't always know, well, I mean, they're really more Caucasian than anything else at that point, but they tend not to know their ancestry. So there's a lot of issues with that. But the ancestors that you do know of, you look to the value in those ones. You look past this demonization of the faiths of your ancestors. Perhaps that requires using certain terms. Now, I don't know if this individual is a, using biological gender, saying that, that they were female with male traits or male with female traits, or they're transgender. I'm not exactly entirely sure what some of this is getting at, but I mean, what's provoking certain phrases in this poem. But the cosmic spider, Orion, is sometimes not depicted as a hunter, but as a spider. And you can look at that by different values being upon the same thing. And then there's a ritual that with something that has a particularly flammable oil, sun of fire, it's a symbol of prosperity, never freezing. Some of the things that spirits could get you to test, you know, it's their test for you when they try to get you to do certain things. That could be what's being talked about by some of what's here. Now, a musical background to have an effect. Just don't have something you like, have something that's going to be effectual. Don't just overwhelm yourself. You can kind of lull yourself or train yourself otherwise. It's your choice what you want to do. Some trauma is more how you've been programmed. I live in a country that's pretty much everybody is, you know, has to fight this issue that there's something inherently that you owe people or that you're owed or something just because of your gender or your the color of your skin or what continent you were an ancestor from or something. I'm almost entirely Teutonic. I mean, I have we found a touch of French and a touch of Spanish, right? But that's it. That's it for non-Teutonic blood. So it's all Western European. But I haven't, you know, so there's a lot of stuff that went along with my ancestry, a lot of slavery and a lot of nowadays there's more racism against us, but it's like what was done against your ancestors or for or by your ancestors, that doesn't really count for you per se, you know. It's about what you achieve with your own thing. So the picture, I don't know, is it some sort of a mess on the sheet? It's, you know, it's repeating squares. So what are you, you know, what are some of the meanings that can be, you know, there's some care that should be taken. And you identify with the healing effects. And, oh, there's another substance, which I'm going to try not to tell you what it is. You know, if you want to carry out the ritual and do things their way. It's a symbol of gang. It's a symbol of beauty. And when it's all over with, you may want to take part in not only putting this stuff upon yourself, but consuming some of that type of thing for a month, you know, so a complete lunar cycle, you could say, you know, 29 and a half days on average. If you're talking the new moon to new moon. And, but you work with your memories. You know, certain postures or movements could be symbolic, but some more about physically interacting with these substances and just dancing and whatnot. Certain affirmations, Kayla Jai, I think again. You know, what colors you use, what you color certain phrases with can have certain meanings and certain effects. At your way back, okay. And then there's this, okay, Amanda Pickens is says to have channeled something. Now, channeled something and you know, allowing yourself to be creative. I'm not sure exactly what the difference is. Sort of you're absorbed into, but yet you're divided by the body, but you have a sight to the body, and you know, identify with the beautiful and useful aspects of that. And the poem, you're identifying with the whole thing, and you're identifying, you know, your expression is your expression, and you're, you know, valuing people as individuals. Now, Grace Shipman, I'm not sure how this song goes. And no, America's more afraid than ever. And even though things are getting better for some groups, they're telling people to feel more oppressed than ever, even though statistically and policy-wise, they have an advantage, if anything. But America isn't built all on freedoms and values and whatnot. There are some bad things that this country has done and continues to do, but it's the individuals that support it. Cedar is old growth and move with the vibrations, but you know, what are you participating in? If you're involved in something that's not your choice, it's, you know, and don't just believe everything. Okay. Grace Shipman, I think this is supposed to be a poem. I don't see, you know, it doesn't really rhyme or anything, but that doesn't mean much of anything too. And I'm, you know, I guess you can read it in different orders too, because you have a couple columns here. And again, what choice are you going to make with this? Are you going to let doubt hold you back? There's natural restrictions that if you're aware of what the actual limits are, whatever you accomplish, you're satisfied with accomplishing, and you're just, you know, you're trying to do better and all that. And so, you know, there's further things here. There's a word that people don't realize is hate speech that goes back before the NSDAP. And I'm not going to mention that word, but I think you can know what that word is. There are harsh modes, predatory modes that we, to some degree, take part in. But that doesn't mean we have to violate the rights of others. And it doesn't mean that, you know, we meant to hurt anybody. And it doesn't mean that somebody should be shamed because of what, per se, we're, you know, our hair color or something like that. Christina Geneve, you know, it says in the meme that Unicole Unicron is a Christian. Now, I have the Course in Miracles and some stuff like that too. But I understand that a lot of this stuff is probably even less authoritative than the Bible and has maybe not all the same issues, but, you know. Now, some stuff survived. or a certain spirit of some stuff survived despite the strong Christianity of the southeastern United States person who would be identified as Black. But whatever the other people had, a lot of that just, is mutually shared. Especially now that you have almost no white churches and relatively few Black churches. But, the hymns, the stories, the sense of divine message and presence, that's something that even as a non-Christian, you can encourage. Now, the connection to nature isn't always a part of, isn't always a part of certain spiritual paths. Now, I don't know if a person can ever be totally non-conforming, because certainly when you get into groups and they have their jargons and stuff like that, that's even more conforming. But one of the things learned by this person who calls himself a woman, of course, is that they have their own power. And it can be of benefit to humankind. Now, artistic displays of stuff, the person known as Kuan Yin does this too. I don't know how real or fake some of the perceived materials could be in this, but a balance, two-sided thing. The God person, as some people call that way of looking at, because you have the duality working together and you're in the middle of it, or you're in the middle and you have these sides that you're working. Certainly a couple symbols that we have there are in the picture. I mean, there is a message attached to this altar. But the protectors, the good fortune symbols. Other places it may not be taken the same, like in the Bible, the Book of Revelations. You don't take that symbol the same way. It appears to be multicultural. It may just be some. I'm thinking Japanese or something, or some other area around there, not China. I'm not really thinking China. Natalie Isabel Warren. Well, what happened with our ancestors affected some of the ground traits that we have. So, and some of the, I don't know if you could call it genetic memory, but the body sort of prepares for situations that maybe your ancestors went through, you could say. And we can get beyond the names that we were born with. I'm rambling with these a bit, but remember our own vitality, our own person beyond these vessels that we've encountered, that we've incarnated in. And yeah, our own role in what we're doing with all this. Life in our own image, you could say. and how everything affects. Natalie Isabel Warren. I think they're shunning people who aren't people who are white from getting in touch with their ancestry and that sort of stuff. Because people are kind of find it shocking or stuff. Either they're going to outright presume you're racist because you're like getting into that, but it's just, you know, a history that you're part of and continuing, and you know, it's important to know about some of that stuff. Are you going to say you're better because you're born from one person or another, or worse? Or no, that's not a good idea. Certainly, I on my channel do not justify wars of mere conquest, mere wars of conversion, or anything like that. So I'm getting beyond that. But all our ancestors had to deal with probably both sides of that. But what does our response to existence, you know, what's that for us? Kayla Jai again, sort of a breaking of leaders, but that's inherent. Matriarchal society has leaders, so that doesn't really thing here. But we all have our role, particularly when you get right, clearly right wing. You're setting up a system where everybody is supposed to be there and accomplish and not do certain things or whatever. And I don't mean it the fascist way, because then you'd be left wing, right? But you have your sovereignty, you know, certain family freedoms and certain spiritual values and your own responsibility for that. And the spirit of charity, you could say, which being somebody who wants to heal others rather than zap up all the money from the supposed top. I'm not talking about political parties here, just to let you know that. I've sent out requests to everybody herein for interviews. Same thing with anybody in Unicult that can, you know, come on and give their spiritual opinions and experiences. You see in the meme the final picture, and the final picture, it's not a halo, but it kind of operates like that, doesn't it? And this person's going somewhere to set a mood. And okay, sort of dressed to show off, or dressed to be, you know, home alone. I'm thinking home alone, an individual, doesn't need anybody's approval. It's just going to express themselves as is on the, you know, the moment. And of course, you had that programming of the symbolism of the rainbow. And yeah, is there going to be a masculine, more natural driven focus at some point, or just this continued blend of, I don't know.